Life mastery can be a slippery slope. Have you noticed? Today I'd like to share with you a framework, a 4-step framework, to add some clarity here on how you can master any aspect of your life. 4 vitally important steps that perhaps you might call common sense. Although that doesn't mean it's common practice, does it? So whether you're looking to master the art of playing some music, your guitar, your saxophone, or singing, you're cultivating your voice, or you want to master a relationship and have more love and quality time with the people you care about, or perhaps it's your business, you want to master the skills necessary to scale up your business, to serve your clients and customers better, or perhaps you want to just master your health. Today, we need a lot of that, don't we? So the 4 steps, regardless of what we want to master, it's important to stop comparing to others, because often what we don't recognize, we see somebody say, whoa, an amazing musician, an amazing speaker. Oh, this couple, they're so loving. What a relationship. And what sometimes we fail to recognize is everything they did and all that it took for them to get to that spot, for him or her to get to that point. It's not a quick fix. And you know that. Avoid being seduced by anyone who attempts to guide you into thinking it's a quick fix. It just doesn't happen. So let's take a look at the 4-step framework behind me here. First, it begins with what? An immersion. An immersion of ideas, an immersion of information, an immersion of knowledge, an immersion of facts. Accumulating knowledge, accumulating skills, getting some training. Whether it be over 1 full day, 3 hours, 4 days, in the Silva Method immersion of life and intuition system, what I find the most powerful way, most impactful way is 4 days in a row, from 9 in the morning to 7 at night, where we're applying dynamic meditation skills. People literally leave feeling better than when they came in each day. Because of, if it was just talk, that wouldn't happen. But there's a lot of exercise, a lot of the relaxation. So my point is, when we go into an immersion like that, it can feel at times overwhelming if we're not careful. Trainers, facilitators need to be very careful because it's too easy to overwhelm people with the information, with the ideas. I remember early in my career, back in the 80s, I started setting up in the 80s, I was part of a team, there were 3 of us, certifying new Silva instructors. And no names mentioned, but one of the guys, who I love dearly, his aspiration was, let's overwhelm them, let's give them more than they can handle. And the perception he had was, we're giving so much value. I understand that, and that's well-intending. But the experience of that is, if people get overwhelmed, they what? Give up, they stop. Why bother? It's too much. So it begins with the immersion, that's necessary. But the next step, just as important, necessary step is, and perhaps you know this, repetition. Whatever it is we know, we need to repeat it. We need to review it. I'm sure you've read a good book more than once, something that inspired you. And if you noticed, you can read that book a second or a third time, and each time, especially if it's about your personal or spiritual growth, you get deeper insights. I love it. Silva graduates, people who've been through the Silva training initiative, you can come back for free for the rest of your life. You pay a small seat charge. It's a pittance of what the fee is, the initial fee. And people sometimes from 50 years ago, 10 years ago, a month ago, 3 months. And no matter how long it's been, each and every time, whether they've come back to review once, twice, or more, I'm told, Ken, I got more out of it this time than before. Why? The brain has a love affair with what? Familiarity. Perhaps you've heard that before. We, by our very nature, feel secure in familiar territory. It's how we are wired biologically in the brain. The number 1 priority of the brain, is survival. Number 2 is security. And part of security is familiarity. So even when you do something positive, you go to a training that you're looking forward to, you're going away, first time you're traveling to another country or wherever you're traveling to, there's always that little bit of anticipation, that little bit of anxiousness, because you're not sure completely what to expect. Will it be okay? Will it be as good as the brochure made it seem? Etc. But once we've done something, then it becomes like a friend when we're open. The challenge is when we're in survival or security mode, it's fear-based thinking, and we get blocked. We become resistant. We're not open. We're not learning like young children. They're like sponges. This is why it's so important in part of the Immersion in Silva Method. It's built on dynamic meditation, where you get into a state where you learn faster, you learn easier. It helps to accelerate the growth. So whether you do Silva or something else, it's important that you know how to change your state of being to get into an open, receptive state where you learn faster. Repetition facilitates that. I wish it wasn't true. I really do. I'd be the first online. But it's necessary, my friends. I've worked with hundreds of thousands of people. If you don't know my work, my name is Ken Coscia. I serve as the lead instructor, the training director for the Silva Method. I started when I was 19 in 1971, while I was still a student. And as I've traveled the world to, I think, about 30 different countries, working with translators, working in English, I find that the most important thing is having support and repetition of what you know, rereading it, reviewing, getting coaching, getting new information, getting advanced training, which is so important, support. I'm very proud to say that's always been my forte. My reputation is when people take a training with me, when people allow me to mentor them, they get me. And I give a ton of support, more than most. And I'm there with you from beginning to end and after the fact, because without that, we're going to slip back into old patterns. And it's important, and it's a win-win for all of us, because then you get success, you start thriving in your life, and you become a living example and help make this world just a little bit better. After the repetition of the ideas, the information, the skill set, we then what? Implementation, applying it, practicing. It is so necessary. There are some fantastic, phenomenally, deeply inspiring people. I admire them. I love to listen to them. And the one concern I often have, and I've discussed it, is what's missing often is implementation, taking action, doing something to integrate it. So the repetition helps us to rewire the brain. It's what makes it permanent. It's what helps to create the new neural patterns. And repetition over a 30 to 90 day period of time typically is necessary. It's also part of that repetition is, and the implementation is, you're applying the skills and creating a future identity. So what I want to recommend is you start mentally rehearsing. Get into a quiet, relaxed state where you learn faster, easier. We call it the alpha and or theta, where we've lowered our brain waves into the alpha and theta dimension, which typically we're sleeping, but we do it consciously in wakefulness, and start mentally rehearsing, start visualizing your ideal best self emerging tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, in all the years to come. And how does that relate to, what would that mean? What would be the benefits for you, the benefits for anyone you care about? It's a beautiful, simple little exercise to do on a daily basis, to mentally rehearse your best self, your ideal self. It's how you cultivate a growth mindset. It's how you integrate the information by taking action, the applications. So if it's sleeping better at night, you're having trouble sleeping, if you have an application to help you sleep better at night, it'll help you to retrain your brain to develop healthy, normal, natural sleep patterns. Get the idea? It doesn't matter what the habit is, because a lot of our challenges, a lot of our problems have become habits because it's so ingrained by repeating them day in, day out, month after month, year after year. So the only way that's going to change is to have a skill set that you're implementing, you're taking action with, you're applying it. It's what moves the needle. And in my humble experience, dynamic meditation and practicing it on a daily basis is the difference that will make the difference for you in your life. And ultimately that leads to mastery, a level of excellence, a high performance, a peak experience. Whatever we want to call it, there's so many terms for it. But mastery doesn't mean we're perfect. Far from it. Nobody's perfect. Mastery doesn't mean we know it all. Hey, been there, done that. Right. Anybody who thinks like that, if you know them, if you can relate to it, usually their light has gone out and they're feeling bored. They're not feeling very fulfilled. Cultivating a growth mindset simply means that we recognize there's always something more to learn. And I think, from speaking for myself, that's what's kept me going, is because it's exciting to learn more. It's exciting to do what I'm doing, although I've done it for over 50 years, the training, but to learn a new skill set, to cultivate, whether it be working on my voice, whether it be working on my presentations, or whether it be getting more science, some of the neuroscience coming out. It makes it exciting. So my friends, remember, begin with immersion, get the repetition, implement applications. It's what I love about the Silva Method, is that it's a very practical. If you like practical applications and very specific tools, you'll love it. And that ultimately leads to mastery in any aspect of your life. And it takes time. It's not a quick fix. So remember, I like reminding, if you've been following my work, that you're far better than you realize. You're far more powerful. Your mind is more powerful than you probably give yourself credit for. I know I've been there. I'm still like that a little bit, but I used to be horrible. And once you recognize that, it'll give you hope and the courage to continue moving forward, to continue applying yourself. Take care.